Chip Zdarsky, known by some as a failed mayoral candidate turned comic book writer, but me, I know him as a close family friend. Well, kind of. He signed my comic book once. That practically makes us family. What I'm saying is, I have a special connection because of that book signing.
Actually, I got the book signed for him, and I met Mr. Chip.
Okay, well, my point still stands. You, as the viewer, don't know him like I do. Chip's Daredevil run is something that still gets a lot of attention online, partly due to the fact that it's very recent, and also because it's become a LARPer's wet dream. LARP, for those who are employed, means live action roleplay, which is a fancy way of saying a pretender. If you use the internet in comic spaces, the most annoying thing is when you find people pretending to read comics. They'll post a page of a comic book talking about how cool a character is, when in reality the character they're talking about wasn't even there, or they'll claim a character is well written because they saw a few TikTok edits. Nightwing. Look, I'm all for welcoming people into the comic space. I love helping people find the right comic books to read through. But a lot of these people have never touched a Daredevil comic in their life, and it's painfully obvious. Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil run is unfortunately the most LARPed comic book run in recent times. And I get it, there's lots of hype and aura moments for people to post online. This is one of the reasons why a lot of Daredevil fans have grown to dislike hearing about the Zdarsky run. There's also the second Zdarsky Daredevil run, which follows the first, and it's failed to meet a lot of people's expectations. People like to shit on this run, and calling it all sorts of things. I hate seeing people post their favorite Daredevil run lists and get made fun of for putting Zdarsky's in the top 5. The comic book space should be more welcoming and accepting of people's opinions. They should be able to talk about what they enjoy. And like them, I also liked Zdarsky Daredevil, for the most part. In this video, I'm going to talk about the run in more detail, why it gets LARPed to hell, defend the parts that need defending, and also pick apart the areas that I think aren't that great. This is all my opinion, which I'm allowed to have. Zdarsky, if you're watching for some reason, I'm a big fan and you're genuinely invited to my wedding. I hope you don't mind me dissecting your work page by page. This run, to me, holds a special place in my heart. It was the first ever Daredevil comic I read. Maybe that's part of the reason I have such a fondness for it. It doesn't try to reinvent the character, well, not at first. And it takes what so many of us love about Daredevil and just does it again really well. It introduces a new concept, and we see Matt and his supporting characters evolve around that. The premise of this run, or at least the good part of it, is Matt accidentally killing someone in a fight. He doesn't even realize he did it at first until it was on the news. Getting to see Matthew deal with something so heavy like that, especially as he's someone who has a very strict code against killing. Getting to see him deal with it and live with that is something that Zdarsky did really well. There's some Punisher at the start too. He shows up to congratulate Matt on killing the guy, which, by the way, is kind of out of character for Frank, but I'll let it slide just this once. The heavier mischaracterization will come later, so stay tuned for that. Now, naturally, Matt was shirtless in Frank's apartment because he got his ass beat and Frank was the one who stitched him up. He gets into a fight with Frank, fork found in the kitchen, grass found green, water found wet, but ends up leaving to continue his fight wearing a Punisher shirt. Now, he doesn't know he's wearing a skull-themed shirt because he's blind, right? Like, he just thought it was a normal shirt. However, TikTok pretenders or YouTube wannabes or whatever fancy term for LARPer you want to use really guess up this look. They go as far as calling it the coldest Daredevil costume. And most of the time, they assume there was a plot reason for him looking like this. But no, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but he genuinely thought it was a normal shirt. I like to imagine there's a universe out there where Frank was a huge Taylor Swift fan and just had merch lying around his hideout. So Daredevil would have ended up beating ass in Hell's Kitchen with an Eras Tour shirt on or something. Anyway, Zdarsky is really at the top of his game for the first, I want to say 2/3 of this run. Daredevil ends up pleading guilty to manslaughter in a court of law, but as Daredevil. Since in the previous run, Matt got his secret identity back thanks to the Purple Man's children doing some bullshit, in-universe retconning. If that makes no sense to you, then it's probably for the best. All you need to know is that, at this point in time, no one knows Matt Murdock is Daredevil anymore, but they used to, but forgot because of magic. So to keep his identity, he goes on trial as Daredevil. He goes to prison as Daredevil. He even gets his own little orange Daredevil mask for prison. I think as a concept, it's really ridiculous, but the way it's actually executed is super well done. I wasn't expecting to like this arc when I first read it, but it was really cool. At this point, Daredevil has become a symbol to the citizens of New York, and his absence is really felt, especially with Mayor Fisk still in office. This is probably where the most impactful thing happens in the run. Elektra, wanting to prove herself, becomes the new Daredevil. This is really the only thing that matters after Zdarsky's run finishes, the only thing that hasn't gone back to normal yet, at least at the time of me making this video. And look, I'm not going to sit here and LARP as an Elektra fan and say that this was a good step in the direction for her character, but I'm low-key going to do that. As someone who has read Elektra only through Daredevil books, I have a great understanding of her character within this title, which at the end of the day is where she started and where she will always be a part of. Elektra is one of my favorite Daredevil adjacent characters because she pushes Matt into places he wouldn't normally go himself. She's not a safe partner, she's always causing trouble. But the thing I really like about her is that she can also end that trouble all by herself. She can kick Matt's ass, and I like that. I like that she can humble him. I think this direction is at the very least interesting. If you're a die-hard Elektra fan, you've read her in Thunderbolts and her solo titles, maybe you might hate this change, and that's totally fine, but I really like it. Maybe not as something permanent for sure, but I still think it's an interesting way to develop her character more. But after this moment in the comic series, it just kind of plummets. There's a really rushed King in Black Venom symbiote event thing, I guess. I didn't pay full attention. But people are gassing up the symbiote Daredevil design all the time on TikTok, despite it lasting barely a page in total. There's also the sequel run where Elektra and Matt become leaders of the Hand and get married. And then Matt fights the Avengers, and there's a lot of hype and aura moments that often get used in those cringe power scaling videos you see on TikTok sometimes. But it's fine. A lot of people claim this is the worst comic of all time, which is just wrong. The first volume of Zdarsky's Daredevil is on par with Charles Soule's run for me. Both of them started really strong and ended on the weaker side, but still wasn't bad, and I enjoyed both of them. The second Zdarsky run, on the other hand, is pretty mid. I'm sorry, it makes a couple weird decisions that impacted my feelings about the first run. Like with kind of retconning Foggy's death, but I guess it was planned, but the way that they killed him off felt like a weird retcon. Basically, the Foggy that had been hanging out with Matt the last few months was a fake Foggy, and the real Foggy died in the Devil's Reign event, which closed out the previous volume. It felt weird to me, and it wasn't shocking. If anything, it was disappointing. I was like, oh, well, what the fuck? So naturally, the first volume being super grounded in street level, the second one decides to go completely crazy and supernatural. Matt fucking dies and goes to hell to retrieve Foggy's soul, stay with me, and fight the literal devil himself. He gets a cool white costume with lightsabers, which is like the most LARPed comic page of all time. I see that shit on Twitter and TikTok with the new made-up plot description more than I see my own family. Top 10 Daredevil panels, and it's like number 2, Angel Daredevil. I guess, bro. Anyway, overall, the run gets a lot of flack. I don't think the second volume should bring down the first really solid run. I think Zdarsky really wanted to try something new with Matt, and I think the concept of a supernatural Daredevil story could have been interesting, but it felt rushed and it could have used more time in the oven. Anyway, that's all I have to say today. I'll catch you guys soon. Thanks for watching.